Alright, for this video I wanted to cover the Schedule B-1 disclosure that goes along with a Form 1065 partnership return. Now, not every Form 1065 needs a Schedule B-1. It's only required if you have partners in the partnership that own directly or indirectly more than 50% of the entity. Okay, so for closely held partnerships, this is likely going to be an issue. But if you have partnerships with a lot of different partners and they're not related parties, probably not going to need the B-1. But nevertheless, let's go through it. I've got a slide here with some examples, and then we've got the actual Schedule B-1 that we'll run through for the example as well. So back to the slide. How does this issue arise? Well, if you look at the 1065 and Schedule B, there's a variety of questions in there. Questions 2A and 2B ask about this issue, right? So if you have any parties that own directly or indirectly 50% or more of the partnership, you have to answer yes and then complete the B1, okay? Now, I have this sentence here just to highlight some of the overlap. So the information on who owns 50% or more of the partnership is arguably obvious. And that's because if you look at the K1s filed with the 1065, on the K1 you have to list each partner's ownership interests, right? So there can be some overlap. But the reason B1 exists is really to get at indirect ownership. Right, so if you look at the K1s, you can see who owns the company directly. Sure, that's easy. But what you can't see with looking at the K1s is the affiliated relationships that might exist between partners. And so that's what gets disclosed on the B1 form. Okay, so B1 has two parts. One's for entities and two is for individuals and estates, right? So part one, if you have an entity that owns 50% or more, direct or indirect, of the partnership, they go in part one, and then part two is for individuals and estates, okay? So what information is disclosed? Well, the name of the partner is disclosed. If the partner has an EIN or a tax ID number, social security number, ITIN, that information would be listed. If it's a foreign partner that doesn't have a U.S. tax ID number, that is okay. That's not uncommon. And as a placeholder, you would just use foreign U.S. as the tax ID number for that foreign partner. You also enter the type of entity, country of organization, or citizenship if it's an individual, and then the maximum percentage owned at the end of the year. So this is where you would have, if you had both direct and indirect ownership, you would effectively add the two together, right? So let's look at some examples here to try to illustrate this point. We have Jessica and Mary are partners in Table Consulting, which is a Delaware LLC. Jessica owns 65% of the membership units, while Mary owns the remaining 35. Okay, so it's just a two-person partner, 65 and 35. Jessica and Mary are not related parties. Okay, so given Jessica's greater than 50% ownership, the 1065 has to include a B1 disclosure, and you report Jessica's direct ownership of 60% and no other indirect ownership. So if we look at the B1 here, we have Table Consulting, the EIN for the company. Part one is blank because we don't have any entities that are partners here. We just have individuals. So in part two, we have Jessica's information, right? Her name, her tax ID number, where she's a citizen of the U.S., and then her maximum percentage owned at the end of the year. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward for that example. Now let's go back to the fact pattern here for example 2. We have Bob decides to form Bob's Investment Group LLC. The LLC is owned 35% by Bob, 7% by Jennifer, 7% by Adam, and 51% by Offshore Investments Limited. Okay, so that's a Cayman Islands Limited Company. Now this entity, the Offshore Investments Limited, is owned by Bob, right? So Bob owns 100% of this company, and Bob owns directly 35% of the LLC in his name. Bob, Jennifer, and Adam are not related parties. So how does this work out? Well, Bob has both direct and indirect ownership via another entity. So he owns 35% directly, but then he owns 100% of a company that owns 51% of the partnership. So he owns 35% direct in his name and an additional 51% via his ownership in the Cayman Islands entity. So if we look at Bob's Schedule B1 that's going to go with this 1065 return, we have to complete two parts here, right? So we have Bob Investment Group EIN for the entity. Now, entities owning 50% or more of the partnership, well, the Cayman Islands entity, Offshore Investments Limited, owns 51%, right? So this would have to go down here anyway. So we have the Cayman Islands EIN. It doesn't have one, right? It's a foreign company, so foreign U.S. It's a partnership for tax purposes. And then country of organization, Cayman Islands entity. And then the maximum percentage owned, notice how we're not using 51%, right? We're using 86 because that is the amount that's both direct and indirect ownership because Bob owns 100% of this company. Similar concept down here, right? So we have Bob, he might not own 35, he might only own 35% directly, but indirectly he owns more than 50%. Right, so we have his name, his EIN, or his social security number rather, country of citizenship, US of A, and then the maximum percentage owned, 86%, and that's because he owns 35 directly, and then an additional 51% via his ownership interests in the Offshore Investments Ltd. Okay, so relatively straightforward. It's just important to make sure that you do look at all the affiliated relationships between the partners of the entity. Make sure that you're disclosing everything completely because, again, this is what the IRS is trying to get at. They understand that a K-1 is going to be issued to every partner. That's fine. But they're trying to get a better understanding as to who really ultimately controls the company through both direct and indirect interest. So that covers it. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.